Yeah, over your shoulder. Great start. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Kerfuffle webinar.
Wait. Surely you should have a slightly homoerotic introduction to this episode.
Why? Why would I have a homoerotic?
Because you can. Here we go.
Do you remember?
De algún modo lo que en la playa me pasó. Era muy blanca, era muy bella y sobre mi hombro se posó. Una bandada de palomas volaban juntas bajo el sol. Marchaban libres y una de ellas vino a mi lado y se quedó.
And you bet me I couldn't spend £3 on Fiverr an hour. I got that. What do you think?
Well, first of all, what have we said about rehearsals? I thought Agents Giving would have taught you never to have done something without rehearsing it in advance.
I just thought we'd do something a bit, light-hearted. And this Korean guy really seemed to want to design that intro, so I let him do it.
So I've signed that off without even realising it. You told me that was for something completely different.
£3 you've ever spent, my friend, let me tell you. But let's introduce our
set the scene.
We'll start in order of seniority. Mr. Simon Whale, making a guest appearance on his own podcast.
Exactly, wonderful.
Simon, how was the golf yesterday?
It wasn't yesterday, so thanks for your research as usual. But it was Wednesday, and it was sensational. Sensational. It was a lovely day. First time in 2 years. Because you know how hard I've been working.
You work harder than any other man in prop tech, unless that any other man is Mr. Oliver James from Oliver James Estate Agents. How are you, sir?
Good, thanks. How are you all?
I'm very well, thank you.
Lovely to see you, Simon.
Lovely to see you, Oliver. That's very formal.
And Tom McGee of Your Move, Mary Ashton underline.
Look at him. He looks already bored. He can't.
He does look dejected. Well,
that's at the end of the award ceremony when he realised he hasn't won and I have. Yeah. So that's how he's going to look.
Exactly. Yet another time when I've been conned into paying a ticket for something that I've got no chance of winning.
You're the cynical one. Oh, I was trying to figure out who was going to be pro awards and who was going to be anti it.
No, he's just trying reverse psychology on Peter Knight by saying he's not going to win, and then Peter Knight feels sorry for him, then gives him the award.
And if I thought that was an option, I would have definitely tried that before this year. To be fair,
yeah, I faked a heart attack. It didn't work. He's quite tough to that. So we're here today, guys, to talk about the joy of awards, whether they have a real place to play in your marketing setup and everything else, or if, as many people will describe them, a load of old hooey that you can buy your way in and serve no purpose apart from the event sponsors than anyone else. So we understand where we're all coming from. Let's start with you, Oliver, first, as somebody award-winning. What's your position on these award shows?
I'm somewhere in the middle. I think there is some value in them, but you're
in between. You're Lib Dem.
Oh no, definitely not. I'm definitely not liberal. I'm sort of in the middle. I think that they have some value. I don't think they have as much value as maybe the award ceremony think they do. But it's as with everything, it's how you spin it to your advantage. I don't think you're going to get many listings by going in there saying, "Oh, I won this award, I won that award, I won this award, I won that award." I don't think people are going to give you a listing, but it's just a bit of a backup from the industry to say that you're good. So it's basically going into evaluation and saying, you know, we do all this, by the way, we won an award, and that was the industry sort of giving us a pat on the back and acknowledging us for what we're doing, basically. I suppose that's how I'd use it.
So it's a social proof exercise for
you.
Yeah. But don't, as some people do, get overly obsessed by it, seemingly putting all their time and energy into awards entries and everything else. If you win them, it's a nice bonus.
I mean, it's nice to, obviously it's nice to win. Who doesn't want to win an award, you know? So I mean,
can we talk about the other side of it, Oliver? Because this isn't your, if I'm not mistaken, this is your first one at the EA Masters, but it's not your first rodeo. We were together at the Negotiator Awards a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And that feeling of kind of getting your hopes up, getting to the award ceremony, drinking all of Simon Wales champagne.
I went to the Kerfuffle drinks, and I don't know if I was late or not, but basically I got you a drink, I got your partner a drink, and a couple other people a drink, and I just thought it was free. £86 that cost me.
Best award ceremony ever,
mate. That's prop tech for you. That's the upsell.
Yeah, the negotiated awards were very disappointing because I mean my estate agency is only 3 years old, so I was up for newcomer, best newcomer, and I thought I had a fair crack at it because we'd sort of gone from a cold start to number one agent, 35% market share, and I don't want to go on about how amazing we are.
Chris Watkins will start shouting if you start talking pie charts.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not. See, what's worse, a pie chart or an award ceremony? See, that's something. Maybe another podcast there for you. So yeah, no, I thought I had a really, really good chance, and we came nowhere. So I was quite dejected. I made a special trip to London. I just had an operation. I wasn't well enough to go, but I thought I was going to win. I honestly thought I talked myself into it, and we came nowhere. So what do I know? Market share means nothing.
Okay, so Tom, from your point of view, then talk to us about how would you are you just because you're obviously a franchisee of a corporate, are you able to enter it on that rate, or is that not part of the mix when you sign up as a franchisee?
So for us, a lot of the awards we're a sort of a square peg that doesn't fit into the round hole of their categories, if you like, because either the larger brand is up for some sort of national award, but there's not necessarily the facility for you to apply as a branch within that. So we have, in theory, won is it called the British Property Awards? A couple of times. I say in theory because we've never paid for it. So weirdly, suddenly we don't win it, and somebody else in the area has won it after that. Yeah, well, 100, not cynical, just fact on that one.
It's like the Reader's Digest. If you don't get your entry back in quick enough, someone else gets it.
So for legal issues, can we forget that previous event you just said? But I have heard some stories that they will literally say, you have won this. Would you, if you pay for that?
I think the exact phrasing they use with us is, you might have won this. Is this something you are interested in paying for? And then when it turned out that we weren't interested in paying for it, it turned out we hadn't won it. So they definitely didn't say we would only win if we paid, just to be clear for the lawyer's benefit.
Can I ask you all a question then? Does it actually matter? Oliver's already sort of set up the premise that an award won't necessarily make you a better estate agent. It's not necessarily going to guarantee your client a better service, but it's all to do with the way that you as an agent leverage it in terms of marketing and being able to use it that way. So in that respect, is there a difference between a paid for award?
No. Honestly, I don't think there is. I mean, I think if we were all being honest, we would probably say that the EA Masters Award is probably whether you want to say the best award or the most respected within the industry. And if you were going to do well at any of them, that's probably the one you would want to do well at. But I think if you're sat in somebody's house, and all joking about the previous awards that I mentioned that said you're going to pay for, if you're sat saying we've been awarded this as the #1 agent in the local area, I don't think they would have any clue.
I mean, does Mr. and Mrs. I don't know, Mr. and Mrs. Press that you're valuing the house for, do they know the difference between the Negotiator Awards or the EA Masters? It's all the same to them, so you might as well pay for it.
Oliver, after I take them through the presentation slides for 2 hours, they definitely would understand. Look, here's Phil Spencer. I'd say, you know Phil, don't you? I think that is a problem, isn't it? If you what David was talking about,
what I do on some valuations is I do the video from the Negotiator Awards of you and David doing a stand-up routine. That's won me a few listings.
Yeah, if you sign the contract, I'll stop. I'll tell you something. What that comes down to is public recognition. And so, therefore, do you think that an award that is effective, because we all know that the EA Masters, although it's like you say, Tom, it's probably the only one you don't need to pay to enter because you're entered automatically. But it is backed by Rightmove, which whatever we as agents may say and think about Rightmove and charging and all the sort of twos and fro's that go on, at the end of the day, as far as the public are concerned, Rightmove is the #1 search engine that they're, for properties that they're aware of. Does that give it kudos, or do you think rewinding the clock a little bit when it was it the Sunday Times? Was that a little bit more prestigious? How do you think the public view that?
Well, there's a known brand name to it, isn't there, alongside it? But my understanding is you've got to pay for the license if you do make the top lot anyway. So you are paying for it in a roundabout way if you do want to use it. So it's still paid for.
If you win, you can still sit in somebody's room and say, in somebody's lounge, and say, "I'm a winner of this." You just can't use it on your marketing materials without paying for it.
It's a license to use it. It's a license to use the thing, isn't it? That's absolutely right.
I'm just looking forward to the Kerfuffle Awards. When are they coming?
Well, I was just thinking about it. Tom was saying
that's what we're announcing tonight.
Tom said there isn't a category there for him. Oh, there will be, my friend, at the Kerfuffle Awards.
Green screen. And I think the key for the Kerfuffle Awards is the ceremony needs to be in Manchester. Because, I mean, that's the other big issue with these things, isn't it? All joking apart, Oliver said he travelled all the way down to London to not win an award. And that's the reason, we haven't been to... We're in our first year for the EA Masters for sales and lettings, but we've been nominated before in lettings. Yeah. And, you sort of... I know people sort of take the team and things like that, but it's a big expense and a big effort to go to.
And, potentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get the impression that if you don't go, you're not going to win it, no matter who it is, really.
I can tell you that one. Certainly, the ones we spoke about there. That definitely isn't the case. They do have those ones that don't win, and they will still award it. It's not the best shout out in the room when they do it, because you tend to get the audience in the room who gives a little bit of a boo, but. You definitely, because I think the difficulty is, when you used to have it when there was judging and everything else, there was a lot of time, effort that went into it, and they would clearly do what you just said there, Tom, and encourage in any way they possibly could do without clearly saying you've actually won the award. But of course, that did lead to the massive disappointment as well, because yes, you try to encourage the other ones along, and they go all that way. I think the only thing I'd say, Tom, is they have tried the North. Me being a chippy Northerner has always moaned out, "Oh, it's always bloody London," and they've done it in Leeds, they've done it in Manchester, they've done it, and you know what? They just don't vote with their feet. They still don't get it. I think the problem we look at is to come from Newcastle down to Manchester takes longer than it does for down to London anyway, and there is that argument. If you're going away for a bit of a beano, it's better to go there to the big smoke than anywhere else. So there is that horrible thing that London kind of just makes it work, because it's the big black hole, isn't it?
And I think there's also a perception maybe as a Manchester estate agent, and I know David and I have spoke about this before, but there's this sort of London chums club that runs a state agency and sort of is featured in the Negotiator magazine, and you know, is on the golf days and for the various charity events.
The Rothschilds of the estate agency.
Yeah, definitely.
Whoa.
You know, these estate
Illuminati. Go the Illuminati.
You know,
well, there is that sort of sense that there is one way or another a sort of a property elite, if you like, where you've got some outstanding firms. They are absolutely fantastic, but they always seem to sort of feature more than people from provincial backwaters like Tom and Oliver. I come from the big city, obviously, so people know who I am. But it is tough. But let me ask you a question then. In terms of your staff, it can be a massive morale booster, can't it?
Again, I think for me,
they know that they've won.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, it depends how your boss reacts to that. As if I go in and make it all about myself, then they'll probably get dejected. So it's putting it back to them and giving them a reward, probably.
I think you know, when the announcement came out last week about who'd been shortlisted for the EA Masters Award, and we sort of told the team and explained exactly what it meant in terms of how many branches there were, you know, how many might have been shortlisted in each category, and you know, that definitely gave them a boost, especially when they started checking on the local competitors to see who was or wasn't in there, and you know, I know they enjoyed that. I think that's an interesting thing, actually, in terms of the staff, because I think that from a recruitment point of view, it's definitely something that you can and should push. I think, you know, we certainly would be making a bigger deal of it. I think if we got a decent ranking in these awards, I think that's something that we'll be pushing to people as part of our recruitment piece.
It's qualitative, though, isn't it, Tom? So, for example, the lovely thing about that, because now Peter and the EA Masters are looking at pretty much every agent in the country, when you are in that top 5%, this isn't down to judging. You might still disagree with it, but that ability to communicate that out to the public, they can at least understand that we are in the top 5% there. That has to matter something, doesn't it? I think whereas Sunday Times over a period of time obviously had built up an awareness and everything else there, it's just going to take a while for EA Masters and the Best Estate Agency Guide to obviously get out there in any sense to the consumer itself, because famously that's a really difficult pitch, isn't it, to penetrate in. But I think Peter Lawrence makes the point here as well. We're ignoring Graham Wilson's ones, by the way, because he's been a little bit naughty. But Peter makes the point. The awards are the cherry on the top. I think we'd all agree with that. The learning part of it is more important, and networking is also great. That learning part of it, though, was one thing that when they did use I think the Negotiator still has you have to put together the entry. Certainly the Sunday Times days. What I found a lot of agency clients and partners and myself was, when you're caught up in like the market we've been in, it's the busiest thing ever. And you think, have we actually, have we managed to achieve some of the great projects? When you look at it, when you're doing that actual submission, you do realize how much you've achieved over the course of the year, or may, not of. And that's quite a nice, a flag in the sand, as it were, to kind of see what you've done on a yearly basis.
I think the thing I like about the EA Masters is obviously you get your report. I mean, last year I didn't make it into the list, and I was gutted by it. But I went through that report they gave me and sat down on how we could improve. So I used it as a tool to improve. So I think that's beneficial as well.
Did you meet Jimmy Carr at an award ceremony?
Fleetingly. And as Christian Boyfield made the point, his security team, the words were uttered, "That man goes nowhere near Jimmy." as I was marched from one part of the room, let's just say, to another part of the room anyway. But a lot of people thought I was hard done by.
Oliver, can I just touch back on the points that you made there about this, about Rightmove effectively being they're the testing mechanism, aren't they, really, for whether agents make it that far and get into the top 10%. And as I understand it, they then take that top 10% based on those Rightmove stats, and then they mystery shop them to work out who then belongs in the top 5%. And I'm presuming that is underway as we speak. Do you believe that is? I mean, last year you lost out on it, presumably just because your agency hadn't been up and running in that area for long enough. So you didn't have the stats.
I don't. We didn't meet the criteria. I don't think it was anything to do with up and running long enough. We failed on something and didn't make it to the next round, as it was.
He gave you a free pass there, Oliver. You should have taken that.
No, well, I recall that. I recall last year we, for instance, changed CRMs, our letting CRM, and because it changed the Rightmove feed, our stats weren't included. So that was our get out for last year. This year, it's just clear that 90's got on vendetta against me.
Christian comes back in here though, and if anyone has seen the base property table, is probably second only to the level of debauchery that the kerfuffle tables look like. And as he says here, the biggest benefit of any award we've won is how much it means to the staff, the pride having achieved that, and the determination to do it again. If they never win as a single client, that's enough for me. I think those people who do weaponize that well, I'm thinking here now, the streets are heads who have always done it, and it's bloody expensive. That's the first thing. But if you think about, hitting your goals for the year, and if you have hit your own individual goals, that means you get to go to one of these great events. That's quite a nice driver for people. People like the Carl Tattlers as well. It used to be genuinely heartwarming to see those guys, hit the big city from up north and obviously enjoy themselves.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that a state agency, without wanting to feel sorry for ourselves on a Friday evening, can be a pretty thankless task sometimes, can't it?
Yeah.
The market's great at the moment, so all we are doing is fielding calls from buyers and saying, sorry, you can't view that property because it's an hour and a half since it went live on Rightmove, and we've booked 77 people in to see it since it came on live, or saying to a first-time buyer, oh, you've only got a 67% deposit. That's not going to be good enough to get this property. And I'm being facetious, but basically, in a great market, you're just constantly letting buyers down, and in a poor market, you're constantly sort of ringing sellers and saying, sorry, we're not going to get what you want, or it's going to take us longer to sell, or whatever it may be. And I think the reality is, whilst we may all love the industry, it sometimes is sometimes it's a hard slog throughout the year, and an award, even if just your peers saying, do you know what, you're not bad at this, is sometimes what you need, isn't it? Just to give you that little boost and give you that little boost and give you the pep in the step again, sort of thing.
Spot on. And what do you think about?
Sorry. No. After you, sir.
I was just going to say, what do you think? Do you think that it needs to be a physical event, though, doesn't it? I mean, I think going forwards, we're going to see hybrids where there's, you're going to have a bit digital, bit there. But if you're really going to throw yourself into this and get the most out, being in that room to experience everything else. I mean, I'll talk about it very honestly. I was laughing, Oliver, as you said there, you firmly expected to win and everything else. I remember the first time we went at it at my old company, and me and my colleague, we knew that we were going to win. It was finally in our first year that they were going to definitely accept that we were the best. And it was just a case, to the degree that as they counted down in the top CRM category from number 3 to number 2, and then here we go. My colleague Peter Fennick was actually putting on his jacket, standing up to get ready to go there, as they also then said, and at number 1, TM Training, Julian O'Dell, who awkwardly was sat on the same table with us and getting ready for it. But I tell you what, it absolutely, ridiculous as it was, it set us on a road to next year. We are definitely going to win this, and a lot of the stuff was really, really constructive stuff. That the benefit was to the business without a shadow of a doubt. We got better at proposals. We got better at talking to our clients to ensure they were telling us why we were good, better at listening and everything else. And I think that was one halo effect of these awards that's often overlooked.
So there's probably an elephant in the room connected to that, though, because I think that we're in reality we're doing a lot of talk here about EA Masters, and I genuinely believe that's probably the fairest award that there is in many ways. But the criteria, which is not completely revealed, is very much dictated by not just Peter Knight, but also Rightmove's involvement, and a lot of the judging. If you believe the sort of rumours and the things, is about how quickly you can respond to a lead, and a buyer inquiry and a tenant inquiry, and your speed of response to that is very much the not the factor, but a large factor in your success. I think it's probably fair to say, isn't it? And yet we know that because we've all spoke about this, and it's been discussed by David and Mike Nelson on other podcasts, that most of the leads aren't great quality from the portals, and we're being pushed by the award criteria to focus our time on immediate response to any lead that comes in, and an expectation that all leads are good quality.
Yeah, rather than the tire kickers.
Yeah, and also that if somebody sends a lead in at 6:01 in the evening, that it needs to be responded to by 9:02 in the morning. Otherwise, it's some sort of failure of agency, And
I disagree with you there, Tom. Yes, there's a lot of tie kickers, but there's a lot of opportunities in everyone.
Oh,
and
100%.
To build a relationship.
Yeah. And sorry to talk over you a little bit. I'm not saying that they're
not.
not.
Right, I'll head down to Thames side now.
I'm not saying that they're not good opportunities in there, but what I'm saying is that what the criteria of the awards and the reports that you get back from Rightmove are saying to you, well, this is the reason that you didn't do well. And as Simon was saying, so you then study that and think, what do I need to change to do better in the award?
I think the biggest flaw for me is the fact that, for example, they could ring us on a Friday afternoon, and we're like waylaid with completions. We have people in the office picking up keys, and we miss one phone call. And for that, we've lost out on the award totally.
I can clarify, actually, and this, you were absolutely right. One of the things they have done is listen to some of that feedback in terms of what they call the mystery shop. And you can only imagine, wouldn't you, they could have run the mystery shop with probably the expiry happening on the day before stamp duty. It's like, stop fucking wasting my time. They're not doing it, but they're not doing it as well because they're looking, they want to evolve those things. And what they realised a lot of the time was they weren't actually starting to mystery shop and rate estate agents. They were essentially mystery shopping money penny.
Yeah.
So that they have evolved that and realised they're looking at different things. So they're now looking at things that.
Did you just ring me a minute ago? Yeah, same person.
Can I suggest that there might also be a further elephant in the room? And I'm not having a dig at all, but different agents are on different Rightmove packages. Now, I love that mug. Oliver, show us your mug. No, the other one. Come on. Massive legend. But Rightmove have different packages. Now, those packages, they will sell to you based on visibility. They say, look, we're going to get your brand in front of more people. And as a result of it, it will also improve your property views as well. Now, as property views are part of the statistic that they take into account, it stands to reason that the person that takes out their biggest package and pays for that is likely
that's suggesting it works. That's suggesting the package works. That's suggesting the package works.
Well, it may work. Technically speaking, it should do, shouldn't it?
Have they not showed the collection?
But surely different areas have different stats on the view. So, for example, my area is quite a small area, so my views will be much lower than centre of Manchester, where it's going to be more views. Is that taken into consideration?
I think if there was an agent within your area who paid for every bells and whistles package optimizer times 10 or whatever the latest thing is, then in theory their views are going to be more because they're paying Rightmove to put their property in front of more people.
And they could be selling a lower volume of property throughout the year, but getting a higher stat because of it. So it needs tweaking. And I
think reviews need to be taken into consideration for all award ceremonies.
Well,
and
I
think
not all our reviews, if that's okay.
No, but I think that needs to be taken into consideration, because how many times have we heard or chatted between ourselves and that one won an award and they're horrendous.
Yeah,
they're a terrible agent, but the stats are obviously good for whatever the criteria is. But on the street, people talk terrible of them because the cowboys or whatever, you know. So I think, and that, if anything, that's going to encourage businesses to get reviews, which in itself is better for the business.
And in fairness, I think that's what the Esters do, isn't it? That they
yeah, but you've got to get the reviews to the Esters.
I'm not sure, because again, I'm not certain that
I'm not in the Esters.
Yeah.
My understanding was the Esters is the reviews have to be.
Yeah. I think Christian Byfield's on here, and he's definitely the king of the Esters, so he may be able to answer that.
Christian, he's one of those as well. He's in the hierarchy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely Illuminati.
Yeah, he's a celebrity estate agent for sure. He's up there. Shoreditch.
Christian Rothschild, they call him.
Him and Charlie Perdios. Let's start naming names.
Well, that's you. Here we go. Esther's is 100% reviews.
Yeah, but direct to the.
Simon, talk about the supplier category, because that's very much driven by reviews as well, isn't it?
Yes, pretty much solely, and that's, I mean, as Christian makes the point there, is that there is a wonderful simplicity to the Esther's one, you know, that might not, you don't have to put in an entry, there's no judging per se. It is literally about the customer satisfaction from your clients, and so there's a fairness to it as well. So you get it, for example, it used to be in some awards you could, you know, if you only got five 5-star reviews, you could potentially win an award. And that led to some really, you know, as you were talking about there, brands you would frankly just say, well, how has that happened? And they've clearly just had a word with some tame clients. But a lot of these ones have evolved over time. So now if you get many more reviews, you actually get a bounce. So there's a fairness and there's a weighting to it. So that's the thing I've always thought that is quite clear on there. From the supplier point of view, of course, is yes, it's just an opportunity there to get out, and that's your moment where you're with your suppliers. I think the proudest moment for me was where, for once, we're not being booed by people when we picked it up. We got a round of applause, because let's face it, most agents don't give a flying toss about the suppliers on the whole. But I think the key thing for me in the supplier category, where it's slightly different, is it wasn't just about winning the big one, although that's obviously what you're there, but to just be in the, at least in the mix year on year, whether it was gold, silver, or bronze, that consistency was the element that you went on. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt now, whatever little success we had there, what we ended up selling the company for a few years ago would not have been possible without the and it was the cherry on top, but bloody hell, it was a big cherry.
Does it? But you see, if someone like Stephen Brown wins an award, who's very personable, very one-on-one, and builds a relationship with his clients, if he wins an award, I'll be genuinely happy for him. Whereas a company wins an award that maybe I do a little bit of business with, it's not going to make a difference to my life. So, isn't there a lesson there for suppliers as well to have more of a relationship with their clients? So
what you're saying is you booed me when I was going up, but for Stephen, it's okay.
I was waving my hand in the air. It was a wave like this.
You were
together.
What Oliver's saying. Well, Oliver, let's expand on that a bit. We are veering into shameless plug territory over here. But when you're considering, I mean, we're talking about reviews being the defining factor that really sort of back up and give credence to your skills as an agent, perhaps. When it comes to suppliers, how important are reviews to you? That you can go and you can see what other agents' experiences are.
If only there was a website that would help us do that.
Like a comparison sort of thing.
Yeah, like a little bit like a Witch meets TripAdvisor, like that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's called All Agents. Oh God, I've done it again, haven't I?
Oh, you've done it again. But genuinely, so Stephen, the reason I mention that is Stephen Brown is very well liked, and I believe that he has got a very clearly defined personality, but his personality is his brand. It is harder for a faceless company to really get as personable with their clients. Is there any particular supplier that you've dealt with that you think has a really sort of warm and cuddly exterior that you buy into that whole, other than?
I mean, I like Photo Doctor a lot. I think they're a great business, and yeah. I mean, like Tom emailed me at 10:30 last night, just with a couple of questions on some edits, and I'm not saying that people should work long hours, because they shouldn't, but that, it makes a difference at the end of the day.
I think
I was up till 5 a.m. last night, Oliver, so hard
yeah, but sending me videos on my WhatsApp group doesn't count as work.
You want that personal approach, you're going to get it.
So I was just going to say about the faceless company point, though. There are plenty of big companies or big-ish companies that are estate agency suppliers that walk that line very well. I mean, Home Search being a great example of that. If I have an issue there, I can email Sam. I can email Simon Gates.
Yeah, great point.
Although I'm dealing with a company, I'm very much dealing with those individuals there. And perhaps naively, you feel that they're invested in your success, not just in terms of they want me to get listings from using the Home Search products, but they actually, are coming up with suggestions in general and things like that. And, I've used them as an example, but there's definitely others within the industry that I think walk that line very well between being a product or a service and a personality as well.
I definitely think. Let us be clear. I do. In fact, I know this. The awards are actually far more important for the suppliers, and I remember. Okay, it was an excuse to have another drink, but where people started paying a bit more attention was we used to talk about the repeat tables being the most boisterous ones there, and that was because we had people who just sat there saying, "What, are you mental?" Because every 2 minutes you're up and cheering, and it was genuinely we were seeing our agency clients going up there and winning, and their success was our success. And once you can't fake that, and it's always really funny to then start watching the really corporate ones trying to copy that sort of approach there. But once you get that feeling and everything else, and it raises it does raise your relationship up, and I don't think it ever gets you out of jail, but you build up a bit of. We've got Peter on here. The amount of times where Peter's had to get on the phone to me in the past, but because we've had that understanding, empathy, we get a bit of leeway, and that's really important.
Peter Lawrence says, relationship with suppliers is a must in my world. No point having them. Otherwise, it's like taking a house on the market, not speaking to the vendor. If they don't want a relationship with Lawrence Rand, we won't use them. They have to help us to grow. Simples.
Yeah, yes, it is, and there's a man who manages that supplier just in general, exceptionally well.
And I think suppliers know that if there's a problem, they're going to hear about it. But equally, if they're doing well, he'll celebrate them as part of his success.
Peter's very on it with the suppliers. Didn't he do your white paper and save quite a bit of money?
Yeah. Thank you for the plug there. I did say do that in the 7th minute, but no, we didn't say that at all.
37. I've got written down.
Chris always says, "I haven't been paid to do this." We certainly paid you, and you've got a good fee. So well done, Oliver. No, we did, and it's fantastic. And here's the thing about Kerfuffle on that is, it's nothing. We're not doing anything particularly clever, but somebody like Peter putting the process in place, putting the stuff on the dashboard. Yeah, he was able to do it. And I think as much as anything, what we've tried to do, if we're honest, is nick a bit of the fairy dust that you have at these conferences and awards. He said himself, I think he said above, didn't he, David, that the networking was a key element. Now, a lot of people just giggle at that, and they will just say, well, it's absolutely, what you mean by that is getting pissed at the bar. That's an element of it later on, but genuinely some of the best conversations happen where if look, you guys, Oliver, you're in the Stephen Brown groups, aren't you, and things like that, and then there's Peter Knight's groups. Not everybody has exposure to that. They can't all be in RAN or something. So that, for many of those agents who aren't there, or even those that just enjoy that and that are outside of those groups, get a real wow factor from being able to just have a chat with other agents about what's working for them and what's what's the hot gossip more than anything.
I think agents are always prepared to help each other. I think that's the nice thing when you get to know people. I've had many conversations with Tom and David and Peter Lawrence many times, and we're always there to help each other. So I think that's the nice thing about this industry.
The thing I really liked about that the other day, Oliver, I saw Jerry, obviously the fantastic Jerry Lyons, highlighting again. He's doing his top ideas, isn't he? And there was one of yours in there that you had kindly said, you're welcome to use, and he's obviously sharing that around the rest of the content club, and that's. That I hate. It's a bit of a wanky phrase, but people talk about tribes and everything else. But what it is about community spirit, isn't it? And yes, you're not going to start sharing this with your immediate competitors.
It's a brotherhood of man.
Brotherhood of agents has been turned down.
I remember when I first went on Twitter, and years ago, obviously when it first started, and all these estate agents were adding me, and I remember saying to my wife Laura, I said, well, "What on earth are all these estate agents?" Making friends with me on Twitter and following me. It didn't make any sense because my whole mindset was so different back then. And before I knew it, I was good pals with Andy Davis at James and Eve and Andy Overman and Joe Ryan and people like that. And before I knew it, I was introduced with Stephen Brown, and my whole mindset changed literally within days because these and Richard Morris was one of them back in the day, and they were giving. And we were sharing ideas, and I was giving back, and they were giving, and it was.
You are right there, Oliver. And look, agents obviously get a bad press from the lazy press. And actually, when you see how you see how charity orientated they are, how much they do in their local communities. And I've always said, you show me any other industries that do as much there. But actually, just that openness is overlooked. I mentioned before, we spent a year after we lost that first one, and we tried to learn from everyone else. Carl Tatler was in exactly the same place. He went out there in that first one, fully expect. He bossed his local market, but then he got knocked back by somebody fantastic like a Marshall Parsons. He then went and studied those businesses, asking to do it. And most of those guys would give up their time, energy, and everything else to entertain them and take them round. And I think that's a wonderful, that really is the what do they call it? Reciprocity, isn't it?
But do you think there's a danger of sort of mistaking the sort of the various Facebook groups and forums, the Stephen Brand groups, the agents that go to the award ceremonies and the agents that go to the training, and there's in terms of a Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap between those people.
I'm in the middle.
Yeah, you are the locus. Definitely.
You're the glue that holds us all together.
But the reality is, it's actually a tiny percentage of the estate agency community. I mean, if you look at the sort of the Facebook groups as an example, there's maybe 1,000, 2,000 members. Of which probably half are not active members of these groups. So you're talking about there's maybe 80,000 estate agents working in the country at the moment. And
you couldn't be more right there. We've fooled ourselves, and I'll admit myself, by going to every single awards and conference. We think that you're seeing 1,000 here, 1,500 there, and over a course of years, you're getting through. And you're absolutely right. That is a small bubble, because here's the point. A lot of those are the same companies that are going back to the place. This 81% of agents are 1 and 2 office agencies. Yeah. And, again, not all of them are as well connected being in groups like that, or RAN or Guild or Move With Us or whatever else. There's a whole slew of them that get pretty much, if they're the connected, it's a state agency today and property industry eye in the morning. And that's probably, there's still probably a demographic outside that I don't know what Venn diagram they're linked into. So you do have to be careful, and that's why you've got to applaud. You've got to applaud 90, haven't you? Really,
that's exactly what I was going to say. To tie it back to the original conversation, that at least all of those are being included in the best agency guide, and they're being given an opportunity to start assessing them against their peers. Because one of the things when we started this business, we were sort of relatively successful locally quite quickly. Slightly different to Oliver, we took over an existing branch, but we became number 1 after 12 months, and we were sort of slapping ourselves on the back and saying how great we were, but we were benchmarking ourselves against the local estate agents, who it turned out weren't the best estate agents in the country, weirdly. So, it's only when you start realising that there are other agents out there doing things better that you can start growing to that next level and start, when you start benchmarking and comparing yourself to the great agents like David and Oliver within Manchester, and to the wider network that we're all aware of, and the people who sort of win the awards and things like that, and you start looking at I look at sort of Acid and Vicky's business location, which won the #1 agency the last year, and you think, wow. Okay, we're nowhere near the level we thought we were, but it gives you some aspirations to move towards. I think.
What does good look like, doesn't it? That's really what it's going to matter. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
Talking about what good looks like, I know that Mr. Whale thinks that national football is a jingoistic expression of our sporting xenophobia. However, are you two looking forward to the football tomorrow?
I'm not sure looking forward is the right expression. There's a slight...
Tom's watching Love Island. He's already messaged me.
Yeah, I watch it.
I've got a message, not interested in football. Watching Love Island. Vicky to win.
Can I come round?
Yeah, there's a slight level of anxiety whenever you watch England, isn't there? I think.
Oh, I'm sure if they lose, they'll take it well.
But it's hard to support them. Why? But Whaley, you go to every single football match that there is with Liverpool. Yet for your national team, you're not able to muster the same enthusiasm.
I made, again, in my fight to make myself the most unpopular person in this industry, I started talking at the golf on Wednesday about why I don't support England and probably shouldn't have the couple of drinks where I couldn't. I just can't. I can't empathise with the fans, ergo, because there is whatever there is and it's not a minority. There is a jingoistic, massive crowd there. So when you hear them singing the 12 Bombers and everything else, I don't want to be part of that. Now, England cricket, where you're dressing up in fancy dress.
Can I just stop you there? I think that over the years, there's been some fantastic crowd songs that have not been jingoistic, they've not been xenophobic, they've been actually quite inclusive. Who amongst us would overlook the John Barnes rap?
No, absolutely right. You
got to hold and give, but do it at the right time. You can be slow or fast, but you must get to the line. They'll always hit you and hurt you, defend and attack. There's only one way to beat them. Get round the back. Catch me if you can, cause I'm the England man. And what you're looking at is the master plan. We ain't no hooligans, this ain't a football song. 3 lions on my chest, I know we can't go
wrong. Do you not just, does that not just fill you with
do you know what? And do you know what? England fans booed John Barnes for 10 years. Case closed.
It's never reached the potential for England, though, did he?
Not since that goal in the American hour, but we've all had what you mean. Faded glory was once something big and then disappeared off. Enough analogies with my career there.
He was never good until he was at when he was at Watford. He was good.
He was all right in those tight pants. I feel like we've deviated from the awards, David. Was that your intention?
Yeah, well, I like to keep it topical. I know that
England's going to get an award soon, aren't they?
So can I take it? If we're doing topicality as well, ergo news, can I ask everyone's opinions on what is now? I took a lot of time and joy. The estate agent that attacked. Confronted Mr. Chris Whitty. Were any of you surprised when that did come out that it was?
It was an estate agent.
It surprised me that it was that estate agent and not a few others that I know. That's what was surprising.
Enough about Sean. But anyway, so
I'd have a billboard up with like. with some phrase up ripping out.
Here's the thing, Oliver. He and honestly, me spouting my bile and everything else. He had been to an anti-vax march, and then on the way back they had spotted Chris Whitty walking through there, and as he admitted himself, we'd had a couple of drinks and it probably wasn't meant in the, as we intended it. But yes, he's lost his job. Unfortunately, no, fuck him.
His mum released a statement though saying that he's not a bad guy, just a very naughty boy.
But can I?
They're going to give him COVID as punishment.
Can I just say though, if he's angry at Chris Whitty for the way that government lockdowns have happened, should estate agents not be really happy about the way that government lockdowns have happened, because they've just experienced possibly one of the most phenomenal periods of growth ever?
You think about the nightclubs and travel industry that have had 2 marches over the last weekend in comparison. There, isn't it?
And that's why I would understand if it was somebody from the travel industry that had attacked him. But estate agents, I expect to sort of, they should be the ones that are sitting in the
let's pretend that we've managed to tie all of these various strands together, like a Guy Ritchie movie. That's why actually I think over the course of the last year, agents have done pretty well actually, keeping their heads down and not being too congratulatory or euphoric, because actually the property has been given a get out of jail card, hasn't it? And as those people have been out there essentially in the hardest of places, it wouldn't have improved people's perceptions at all, would it, if there'd been too much of that? That wasn't for you to all remain quiet at that moment. You can talk now. This.
Well done, lads. We did it.
Good stuff.
Sorry?
I just said good stuff. That's all.
No, great stuff. I'm just looking at one of Peter's comments here. He's looking forward to the next months of learning from the EA Masters and the awards in November to catch up with everybody and learn to be better for 2022. Have a great weekend, and it's coming home. But so November is the culmination of all of these awards?
Yeah, I think November the 3rd, but don't take
months then.
So when will you find out whether or not you're in the top 5%?
November the 3rd.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, and I don't want to be cynical about that, but very much the shortlist is released at the same time that the tickets are released, on the basis that you might want to go to find out you're in the higher echelons, and perhaps you should buy a ticket, which is fair enough. At the end of the day, Peter's running the business. I'm being a bit harsh there, because at the end of the day, it's not just it's not just an awards dinner, is it? It's a full day, and
no, and I think that's really important to point out. There are some. Seth Godin was obviously there last year. Mm-hmm. I genuinely get a load from the event itself, because Peter was talking at the first digital event just the other day about his experience, and he was talking quite lucidly. I don't know why I said that like he doesn't do it normally, but that's normally where I see him in the bar. And that fantastic home moving trends survey that they do, which is it's the biggest of its sort, over 30,000. Dataloft, fantastic again, illustrators of data, don't they? Actually, regardless, what Peter was making the point, we all have our gut feels, you as agents, about what we believe the public want. Well, that home move trends just takes away any of that bullshit, that preconception, and tells you exactly what they are thinking. And he says, it's nice to know that, but he went back and one thing was that 76% of vendors or whatever expect you to have 360 degrees. So we went and bought some Giraffe cameras and everything else. So he went out and actually acted on that to improve his business, and everyone knows he's got a fantastic business.
It's great that people are able to learn from it, and I think anybody that doesn't win an award, even at the sort of, you guys have done great to get as far as you have, and I hope you can make it all the way through to the top 5%, and I will be there alongside you all to celebrate. But I think that if anybody hasn't managed to make it into that top 10%, whether they like it or not, they can grumble about it, but they will really study those reports, and they will use it as an opportunity to enhance customer service, because that's really where all of these awards are focused.
And Peter just made the point, by the way, the tickets are actually already released, and don't miss out. Actually, there is an early bird on them. They are pretty good value at the moment, so do go to the A Master site if you're interested. And of course, you will be able to see me there as long as I'm not barred.
They'd never bar you from an awards ceremony, would they?
Hopefully not the amount I sponsor, no. So that gets me a certain leeway.
That's the only reason you sponsor them, to guarantee entry.
I was talking to the guys the other night when we went to ARIC, the big Australian conference, at the Wolf of Wall Street. What was his actual name?
Jordan Belfort.
Jordan Belfort was there, and it was like when Whaley met the Wolf. Nathan Emerson, the now CEO of Property Mark, marched me to the front of the queue because it was round the block to sign the stuff, and there was just a meeting of moments there that was like. Yeah, I dropped him a line on LinkedIn saying I travelled all the way from England to see him. Would you like to go out for a drink? And he said, "I'm sorry, I haven't drunk or done anything for a decade." And that night, that sliding doors moment, what could have been me going out with him?
You should have shown him one of your pictures with the dwarfs. That might have changed his mind.
He is a dwarf, mate. He is 4'2". He's absolutely tiny. And it was the shittest talk I have ever heard. He tried to, the sell your pen routine. Sorry, he started off 5,000 people, get on your feet, and then he did that, and I was like, this is a cult, and I did say cult. And it's like, do you think this is amazing? And then he said, obviously told everyone, well, that was obviously just, I didn't do that. That was how Matthew McConaughey used to get himself into the zone as an actor. Then he said, the Jonah Hill character, the one who eats the fish, and many people said, Whaley, have you seen Wolf of Wall Street? Because you're in it. He said that was completely made up, fictional character. And it was like, first 5 minutes of his talk, he's popped every bubble that I had intended to see.
But by that point, you'd ripped your shirt off and you were there at the front going like that.
Don't meet your heroes, Oliver.
That's what they say. Are there any heroes that you've met that actually stand up to your kind of notion of a hero? That once you've met them, you think, wow, they're just every bit as legend-like. Sorry?
Just you, David.
Just me. I'm consistent.
Peter Rawlings. And genuinely, he gets me starstruck.
Really? And I know Matty Hason's another one of yours.
Oh, Matty Hason. Oh.
We're moving off heroes onto a different list of Whaleys now, though, aren't we?
That's very true. That's
the watershed list. Well, I think we've done a good one there.
I just want to say hello to Jim Parker. He's in Scotland. They've got a different football story, but I think he did ask how EA Masters differ from the Esters, and if you track back, Jim, you'll find out we did discuss about the Esters are mainly votes received from members of the public, if you will.
But you do need to enter, don't you? It's not much money at all. It's a fantastic value to go there as well. And then the Grand Prix isn't there really. The negotiator is the last one now where you have to submit. I think it's free to submit, and then there was a judging panel of people who then do it, and it's a spanking night out, to be fair. But obviously it's no good because Oliver didn't.
I've heard it's a spanking night out depending on who's doing the entertainment, in fainess. Some years are not as good as others.
Spanking,
yeah, look, we all have mistakes. And mine are every year. Gents, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been great to get your views on this. Obviously, best wishes with it. We will be, as we said, clapping you, claiming it's all down to Kerfuffle. If there's any glory to
it's all down to this podcast tonight. That's what they're judging us on.
There you go. You did say if we said nice things about it would increase our chances of winning, didn't you?
Definitely, that was not meant to be repeated. But
if you're lucky, 90 will bring down the criteria for the top award from 5% to maybe 30%. We all get one.
There's going to be a new category: best franchise of a corporate agency in the Stockport region goes to. We've decided not to do it this year.
Best appearance on the Kerfuffle podcast.
David Mintz, Oliver, Tom, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for obviously fantastic comments as ever. Have a great weekend and come on, Ukraine.
Oh,
coming home.
It is coming home. It's